Today's presentation, how anyone can break into real estate investing, is definitely more geared towards somebody who is doesn't own a property yet and is looking to figure out how to do that or how to get involved with real estate even if they can't afford something or don't think they have time. I think first we'll introduce the team.
Okay, if you're on the HouseHack Seattle team, would you raise your hand so everyone can see you? All right, we have Michael, Marty over there in the HouseHack shirt, Tyler in the maroon shirt, and Royce behind Tyler. And is Faride still here?
I think Faride left for her jazz show.
Okay.
All right, and we can't do any of these events without our sponsors. You just met Israel Lopez, again, hard money lender with certain lending, can help us with any of our short-term needs, like something like a fix and flip or any development. He's also experienced with construction, so he knows how much a project's gonna cost.
And we also have Kara Rosansky, who's sitting back there. Kara is a conventional lender that our team works with a lot. She has closed every deal that we've sent her in the last 5 years, either on time or early. And Kara is an incredible communicator. She's like really patient with all your questions you have and super knowledgeable about how to use conventional financing on a investment deal or a primary residence.
Next we have David Weiser, who's not here today, but he's the builder that lots of people on our team use and also our clients use for new construction. So if you're thinking of doing a DADU play, ADU play, or a new single family home, he's a great person to do that building. Jordan, have you been using David? Okay, yeah, he is awesome. And it's really white glove service. So most people see development and think you can't start with that. But when somebody like David brings in feasibility, architect, engineer, all of the trades and even permit oversight, like you can really start right there if you wanted to and if you had the money.
And we also have Brittany French with Sagaris, who I don't think is here either. She is a property manager that a lot of our team members use and a lot of our clients use. She can help make an active investment feel a little bit more passive. She can help you navigate landlord-tenant laws, manage your property, and help you get renters in your property.
All right, one more thanks to all our sponsors. We can't do this without you. Thank you for the food. And thank you all for also spending your evening and bearing with us while we go without a mic. If we're ever too quiet, just let us know. So today, we want to talk about how anyone can break into real estate investing. And to start, I want to share a story. And it's my story. And I want to put you in my shoes when I started real estate investing. So this will be easier for some of you, and maybe you'll have to think back a long time for others. But imagine you're 23 years old. You're standing on an average street with a bunch of duplexes. And you just bought the worst duplex on that street. And the rents are below market rent for a reason. And first, the inside hasn't been touched in 30 years. The paint is all chipping lead paint on the outside. And you have tarps covering holes in the roof. And this is what you have. So with all of your money in the deal, not much more to go, and really no team behind you, and no experience with tools or really any DIY work, you're pretty intimidated by all the unknowns. But you're ready to roll with the punches. And that first punch comes within the first month. The tenants on one side stop paying rent. So what are you going to do? You're going to scramble and find some type of property manager, maybe like BB, to come and save the day. And they do save the day for you. So let's say 2 months later, the tenant is evicted, and you get those keys. And you open the door and survey the carnage. But you breathe a sigh of success. And it smells like cat urine because the tenant's cat has peed all over the carpets. So you begin ripping out all that baseboard, 1,500 square feet of carpet. And that's not so bad. That's not so bad. Because then you go up to the bathroom, one of the bathrooms, and you fill up that mop bucket. And you notice there's a little hole in that shower. How did the inspector miss that? So the water from the last 10 years has been going through that hole, into the floor, into the walls below. You start ripping away all the moldy lath and plaster, wiping off the studs, putting in kills. After you're done, you take a seat on the tenant's abandoned couch. It's now your couch. You stare at that open wall, the pipe's running up, and you say, well, at least it can't get any worse. And that is when the two huge rats run up the pipes and run under the couch you're sitting on. And then you can truly say, okay, at least it can't get any worse now. And that's the time when you say, okay, now is the time to rehab and rebuild. Because of all the damage and all of the money already in the deal, you don't have more. You have to move in to cover the mortgage. You can't afford rent. So to do that, you need to hire a plumber to replace all the plumbing in your house within a week. And you start buying all your paint supplies and figuring out flooring and the kitchen and bathroom remodel that you're going to have to do. Stuff is looking good. So the day before move-in, you wake up early, 4 a.m., it's dark outside, but you're excited. So you go over to the property, you open the door, and wow, it hits you. I have made it this far. I've made it through non-paying tenants, an eviction, mold remediation that was completely unexpected, all this plumbing, and the team I didn't have, I've already started building. I have a property manager now who I can turn to, and a plumber. And that's when you realize that that soft sound of rain is inside the house, not outside. And the plumber's temporary connection upstairs has flooded the upstairs into the downstairs. All the lath and plaster's hanging down, and you have to start over. And you're about to enter 2 years of a lawsuit to get that money back.
Wow, Logan. An absolutely chaotic start to real estate. So why'd you keep going through that?
That is the question that all of us need to answer before we even get started with how. We need to answer, why do we even want to look somewhere besides our W-2 or wherever we're investing? And is it enough to make it through all the things that are going to come up when we start? Yeah, and my why was, first I was started in a job at a place where within a week I knew I cannot sit here for 8 hours a day looking at drawings. I was working on submarines and be expected to give everything I have for some little tiny return, maybe a little bonus, not actually building something that could give me wealth. So also, I couldn't afford a house. And I found house hacking and saw that house hacking was a way for me to get a place to live, but then also not be burdened by the cost. How about you, Rachel?
Yeah, so when I first moved into the duplex, real estate investing hadn't even occurred to me at all. I had just graduated college and was starting a career in civil engineering, which even at that time I already knew I was gonna transition out of. I didn't like it. And I think it had been about a year since Logan had bought the duplex, so it was post-flood, but pre-rehab, and I think you'd agree, Logan, it was in terrible shape when I got there. But I pretty much started helping Logan with the rehab immediately, and got duped a little bit there, maybe.
Hey, we ended up getting married, so.
But I did get to learn a ton about rehabbing a property, which I didn't know anything about, and managing an investment property, which I also didn't know anything about. I got to learn basic plumbing. I now know how to change an outlet. I did a ton of flooring and a ton of painting, 3,000 square foot duplex of painting. And at this time, Logan wasn't making me help him. I didn't have to, but I wanted to because I was really interested in how real estate investing could be an opportunity for me to get out of the career path I was on and really didn't like and do something that was more fulfilling to me. And also a big driver for me was to set myself up financially for the future.
Yeah, so we both had our whys. A couple of them are the same, like getting out of the same job, but every one of us, if you're already an investor, you must have a why that's driving you to go through all the work, because it's not a passive asset. It's something you actually have to work at and try. And for those of you who haven't started yet, maybe that's where you should start. Figure out that why, and then you can move to how. All right, so now we're actually going to do what we said we'd talk about. we're going to talk about how you can break into real estate investing, and we split it into 3 categories. You have time, but probably not a lot of money. And then people who have a lot of money, but not a lot of time, and people who have both. And first we're going to start with describing who are these people in each bucket, and then talk about some strategies for each. And I think by the end, if you think that you are in just one of these categories, you may find that there's a gradient and you may be actually in a couple of them.
Okay, so first you have time, but don't have a lot of money. And we're not talking about someone who doesn't have a job necessarily. We mean maybe you work a 9 to 5 or a low-paying job, and you have an hour, maybe a few hours a night and some weekends to dedicate to real estate.
That's right. Then we have people who have money. And classic example would be somebody who's working like 60 to 80 hours a week, and they don't have time to, or even capacity to take in all this information, but they do have money that they want to deploy somewhere. They just don't know where to put it. Or maybe they are already invested a ton in stocks, but they want to put some money elsewhere to diversify. And then we have the both, a little bit of both. And this is the one where I said, you may think you're in one camp right now, but by the end, you may see that you actually may have a little bit of both, and it may just be a varying degree, and you have more strategies than you think.
Okay, so we're going to start with the time strategies, where you have time, you don't have a lot of money. And you'll probably notice that none of these involve buying a property right away. So you want to get started, you don't know what to do. A really good thing to do is start learning how to spot a good deal. So this could be as simple as scrolling through Redfin, Zillow, Compass, or driving through a neighborhood and familiarizing yourself with what is the cost of a really, like a perfect property, and what's the cost of a property that needs a ton of work. And you also want to be learning how to analyze and run the numbers for these deals, which you could use our HouseHack Seattle team calculator for, or by reading books and reading forums.
We'll send that calculator out probably on Saturday, so I'm booked with a development project tomorrow. The next thing you can do, though, is become an expert. And this can be something like development. Maybe if you already have like an engineering background, or you work with the city, or you just are fine reading endless lines of code. Learning the zoning code can add value to you because you may need it for your own development in the future, but also it can open up opportunities to partner with people later. So while becoming an expert isn't going to make you money right now, it can later.
Yeah, so then next, it's also a really good time to start building your team. And that can look like coming to meetups like this, so you're all doing a good job, and connecting with 2 or 3 investors and connecting with people they know, so that down the line you have a network of people that you can reach out to when you need mentorship or recommendations or insight. But you also want to provide value as well. So that's where the things where becoming an expert in real estate adjacent things comes in handy, what Logan was talking about.
Yeah, becoming an expert, I was already in structural engineering, but working on submarines, and moved to residential structural engineering because I bought the home, went to one meetup just because I needed a contractor, and realized I have nothing to add value to all these other investors, and I'm asking to take only. So that's why I switched my entire career path. It was purely to add value, and it's paid dividends.
Okay, so next we have the strategies for when you have a lot of money, but you either don't have any time or you just don't have the energy to put into real estate. And first we have just buying a turnkey buy and hold, which may seem like an obvious choice, but if these are properties that are immediately ready to rent, they don't require any rehab or repair, and your agent can usually connect you with a property manager and a local team to put tenants in place and manage the property for you. You usually get a cut out of your returns, though, because someone else is doing most of the work for you.
That's right. And that's kind of a theme with money strategies. If you're only giving money, you can expect that you're probably not going to get as much out of it as somebody who's putting in money and time or sharing their expertise. Some things though, like partnerships, if you get in a partnership where somebody does have the management experience and they have the deal and they just need money, they may be willing to do a 50-50 split. There are plenty of investors, probably in this room, but also just in the Seattle community, who have so many deals that they need, that they just need money for, and they're willing to partner on. So that's the next thing, is partnerships. Then syndications, that's a little less active. If you're doing the partnership with one other person, you're probably going to be involved with a lot of the decisions because it's your money on the line. However, in a syndication, you're grouping a lot of people's money together and you're more of a passive investor. And then the managing partners are the ones who are doing the finding, acquisition, the rehab, construction, and then even the sale after. And there's some kind of like a scheduled payout, usually a year, 2 years, 3 years, and usually a buy-in around like $15K for really small projects. You can go up to like $250K. I'm sure there are $1 million ones somewhere. But these projects are typically huge, and you're just a piece of the puzzle there. You lose some control, but you get some security because you're working with a professional team, and you have a bunch of people lumping their money in. And then just an example of something that's even more passive would be just getting into REITs, or even like a REIT index fund. These are real estate investment trusts. You can go on the same place you go to get your stocks and get into an index fund like VNQ or something, and boom, you have some exposure to real estate already. But if you're trying to look into real estate investing, starting at REITs and just ending there is not what you should do. You should definitely try to learn more because there are so many more opportunities to invest outside of just an ultra passive way.
All right, so now we have our strategies for time and money. The first one being house hacking, which, if you're not familiar with, is when you buy a primary residence and you rent out a room or maybe a separate unit in it. And it's a really great way to get started in real estate investing. It's pretty much how everyone on the HouseHack Seattle team got started. And it can be as simple as buying a condo and renting out a room, or as complicated as converting a basement to a completely separate unit. And you can start house hacking for as little as like 3.5% to 5% down with an FHA loan, which Kara could help you with. So it's a really accessible way to get started.
Yeah, super accessible. And if you're looking at the side where you're converting a space, or let's say adding another bedroom to increase the potential rent on a house hack, you can use a home style renovation loan. It's the same rates as any conventional loan, and that'll fund both the construction and the acquisition. So you don't have to come out of pocket an extra, let's say, $60K all at once to do your rehab. That also works if you're just trying to add value to your own home that maybe you'll sell in 3 years after you've rented it for 1 year but lived in it for 2 years, so you can get out of some capital gains tax.
Yeah, so the next strategy we have on here is the BRRRR, which can work as a house hack or as a pure investment. It's where you buy a property that has value add opportunities, and you, let's say maybe like it needs paint or trim or flooring, or maybe the kitchens and the bathrooms need to be updated. And then you rehab it, rent it for market rents, and then you do a cash out refinance, put that money into your next property, and just keep doing that again and again and again until you grow your portfolio.
Okay, and then the last one we have on here is development. And development, Jordan, you can probably attest to, is normally thought of as something that's more advanced and inaccessible to people who just start. But if you combine something like a lender like Israel, who is an incredible educator, knows how much stuff costs, it can kind of be that second double check when you're going to ask for money, with somebody like David Weiser, who has the entire team and that white glove service, it becomes accessible as a first investment if you have money to cover that. I think Israel, for you, it sounded like 20% down for acquisition and 20% down for actual build costs.
Yeah, typically.
Yeah. So even if that is a lot of money still, but if you have a ton of money, that's not that much money to enter, and then you're also being guided through by your builder. All right, so most of these time and money strategies, they have varying amounts of money needed. Like you can get in at 3% or 3.5% down and put in a little bit of time if you're hiring a contractor with that home style renovation loan, or a lot of time if you're doing the house hack and doing some renovation stuff yourself. And then all the way down to development, which can be a lot of money and a lot of time.
Yeah, so we just briefly touched on a lot of different strategies that can help you break into real estate investing if you don't have a property yet, and which involve like if you have a lot of time but no money, money but no time, or a little bit of both.
Yeah, and we always want to start with the why so we can actually go through the how and hit roadblocks and just be able to continue going. And then we always want to be learning. I mean, Peter, when we were standing here at the table, it sounds like you've been in real estate for 21 years and you still love learning and you love teaching. That's exactly what all of us want to do. I've been in real estate now investing since 2018, and I feel like I've only touched the tip of the iceberg on what I can do and what I can learn. There's so many ways to create value in real estate, and starting small, even with the just becoming an expert in something or learning the market, that is how I started, and the growth has been incredible. So that is what everybody here can do, even if you're starting from nothing. All right. So I think we got hands of who already is an investor. I think that's probably half the room. So that means half the room are people who do not own a property yet, and maybe you have some questions. We have a whole room then, half a room of people who probably have answers to that questions. So I'd love to hear any questions from people.
What would you recommend?
Well, a lot of us started out by reading Bigger Pockets, if you are familiar with that. But do you mean like other meetups or other?
No, just
okay.
like in general, like any other recommendations.
You have anything else?
I mean, the best thing you can do if you come to a meetup is meet like 2 or 3 investors, and then when you have a question, you can just message them. I think I went to 2 meetups over 5 years just to find out like one contractor for 2 jobs, and since then, I've asked so many questions and been connected to their entire networks.
I think people have generally been really willing to help.
Okay.
That is
suppose it probably
I think
depends.
that's the fear that everybody has, but almost everybody who gets into real estate investing has been in our shoes
Okay.
and has been the person receiving information and guidance. Maybe it's just me, but I'm psyched sharing information that I learned. And that's what I found with the other experienced people.
Yeah, I was just adding to that. I liked in your presentation, Logan, how you talked about what can I give to that person as well, right? Like rather than just taking. And I think it's helpful to know how all these people's businesses work, right? Like outside of the city, let's talk like arborist, architect, builder, lender, agent. They're all referral-based businesses, right? So like if you want someone in the real estate industry to give you their time, if you find out that a friend, neighbor, relative, whatever is looking for someone, like do a warm intro and don't just share that person's number. Like start a group text and be like, hey Israel, my buddy down the street wants to invest in real estate, so I wanted to introduce you guys so that you can talk about hard money lending. Like that's a great way where now when you call Israel, you're not just somebody that's asking random questions and taking his time, you're like a business partner of Israel's that is like actively helping him grow. Israel's gonna be like way more likely, I mean he's generous, so he's gonna step either way. Right, but like for a lot of people, they're going to be way more likely to give their time, energy, attention, and expertise to people that they know are going to reciprocate.
Okay.
Yeah, what inspired you guys to get your realtor licenses?
Well, as I said, I was already kind of looking for a way to get out of real estate, and we had the duplex that kind of got me interested in real estate and interested in real estate investing. And being an agent was a way for me to connect with other people and help people, and kind of my way to provide value too. I mean, one of the other ways was to be willing to work on the duplex, but that's kind of my reasons, Logan.
Yeah, my reason was when I bought, I didn't have a team, and you guys heard how chaotic that was and how many unknowns that I had to learn the hard way. And once the properties were doing well enough to not need to be doing 60 hours a week of engineering, sitting in computer doing AutoCAD, not talking to anybody, I was like, well, what's a way to do active income that still hits my need to serve people, my need to connect with people, and growth, constant learning. So I saw getting my license and hanging it with a team that was investor focused, where I could learn so much from my team members, was the way to do that. Yeah, oh my goodness. Number one, absolutely kept my W-2 for the first 2 deals. Exactly for that reason. I made sure that without tenants on either side of the duplex, I could cover all expenses and reserves still. And still actually be putting money into a 401k, which now I don't do as much of that because I'm putting more money into real estate. The W-2 was the main mitigation, but then the second one was the reason I was looking for a place that I could afford is the same reason that all of the other 15,000 people at the shipyard, probably 5K of those are young engineers, they all need housing. So I was like, I'm providing way cheaper housing than they could find anywhere. I filled it up with 7 engineers who didn't leave until they bought their own homes because they were getting cheap enough rent. So mitigated it by having the W-2 and then finding a place where I wasn't concerned about losing renters, and then having value add that I could do to increase wealth afterward.
It looks like Kara has.
I'll add to that because from a financing side, I see a lot of clients who are like, oh, I have to put, they're buying an investment property. They'll say, I have to put X amount down because I need my rents to cover my mortgage payment. Whereas if they look and they say, oh, I'll put 5% less down, keep that money in a savings account in the event the tenants move out, it's more worth it to have a slightly deficit in the rent to mortgage payment, so you have funds you can draw from to do that, knowing rents are gonna go up or rates are gonna come down, and you can eventually get to that, but keeping money in a side account, super important.
I had a different question, but I want to follow up on that. How do you protect yourself from bad tenants and the inability to evict if you really need to? I mean, like with the protections that are here in Washington State.
Yeah, is there anybody here who is in Seattle, which has way stricter landlord-tenant laws than Kitsap, who wants to answer that?
Most of my units are in Seattle, and I have gone through one eviction in Seattle. I think there's a lot of different ways you can protect yourself. One thing that we did after COVID is we did hire a property manager instead of self-managing because the laws got to the point where it became complicated to keep track of them. And then also the unfortunate reality of Seattle's current setup is essentially if there is an eviction, the tenant gets a free lawyer, and that lawyer is very adept at putting the landlord's actions under a microscope and looking for minor mistakes that they've made and using that as a justification to extend the process or even cancel the eviction entirely. So essentially they're looking for landlords to slip up in order to continue the non-payment. And that risk is pretty high if you're self-managing because there are a lot of ways to slip up. The other thing that I really value is that I got started as a house hacker, so I lived in most of my units. So I just had nice units, right? Like I was cheap like every other house hacker, but like I wanted it to look good. I wanted it to be livable because I was living there, and I kind of continued that as a rental property investor, that I just don't rent stuff that is, like for lack of a better term, a shitty place to live. And you can get hit with an eviction anywhere, but if you look at where most of it lie, it is in the places where tenants don't want to live in the first place. And those landlords are putting themselves at a much higher risk than the landlord that's providing a real service with quality housing.
Yeah, that's super good. I think the biggest protection is providing a great place for somebody to live. I rent to people who are getting out of drug and alcohol addiction, and some of those people relapse, and that doesn't look pretty on a property. And I'm on a row of duplexes. A lot of these other duplexes have the same people, and they have been completely trashed. Mine is not, because I've made it a great place. Like, it looks great. The materials are nice. I fix stuff when it breaks immediately. My tenants feel cared for. They do all the landscaping. They'll blow off the roof. They do stuff for me, actually, because of it.
Cooked us food when we lived there.
They cooked us food every night when we were living there. So treating tenants well goes a long way. But ultimately, in Seattle, if a tenant does want to go after you, hopefully you've had a property manager making sure you were compliant with the law. Otherwise, you're in for a long haul.
So find a good.
Yeah. So it felt like rent by the room, the whole thing. It was mostly with friends. So I rented in a place where I knew there were a bunch of people my age doing the same stuff as me who were all interested in backcountry skiing, surfing, mountain biking, had really similar interests. At one point, though, we had somebody come in who didn't have the same interests and actually had a 3-year-old kid who we'd play with, but like that added a lot of stress in that person's life, which would sometimes go out into the rest house. They also brought in a boyfriend who ended up becoming a squatter during COVID. But we treated him with respect and found out what is the goal. He just had lost his job, so he couldn't afford to move anywhere. There was nothing we could do. It would not serve me well to treat somebody with disrespect and have them destroy everything I own. In the end, he got a full-time job and moved out and has his own place with his daughter. So rent by the room has a lot more emotions involved and it's super active. It's probably the most active way you can get into house hacking. Let's see. Bradley's not here. Marty, do you have any rent by the room?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to share anything from your side, your perspective? Do you intend to do more of it, or are you phasing back from it?
Yeah, I like the rent by the room strategy. I think my recommendation would be if you're starting out with it, it's a little bit like a kindergarten. Like you're kind of managing multiple people. So you really want to think about like how much time do you have? Do you want to do that, or do you want to get a property manager? Even though I was house hacking it, I actually got a property manager to manage the rent by the room. So I was willing to kind of pay that 8 to 10% because it can get a little bit messy. You have 5 or 6, even though they're adults, but they're all living under one room, and someone doesn't like that the dish wasn't put away and stuff like that. So I love this strategy because it's usually higher returns, and especially in Seattle, you go a little bit farther south, you get a kind of big 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom house. You can do quite well on it, and it's kind of a win-win for both, right? Because it's very tough in this market to find a rental for $800, $900, $1,100. So you're providing a good, experience for people. Like I had a lot of tenants that I've had now over the couple of years that I've been doing the room rental that come to me and they're like, I can't believe like I've been going to all these other places and it's like a dump basically. Like a lot of people are slumlords, especially in the room rental situation. So you really have an opportunity to do better than that.
You mentioned a lot of like essentially hard times. Were there moments where you wanted to burn it all down and quit?
There was never a time that I wanted to burn it down, unless my insurance was high enough for it. No. Yeah, my why was so strong of wanting to not be like a slave at my job and have some wealth that was growing more than $60K a year, that I was willing to do whatever it took. So yeah, there wasn't a time that I wanted to burn it down. Rach, did you ever want to burn it down?
No, I feel like we were pretty aligned, and especially when we were first there and we were renting to all our friends, even though we were living in like a partially gutted duplex, it was really fun.
Yeah,
so
I think somebody who's right for real estate, if they're not going to get the team set before they start, is somebody who loves learning and can make the best of every situation and like move forward. If we weren't that kind of people, yeah, we would have exited real estate and I would still be an engineer slaving away in a submarine. Yeah, okay, that is a good point. I haven't gotten to a point where I was completely hopeless and saw no way to get out of the problem. All of mine I was able to solve because either I mitigated the risk enough, and what could be drastic, like me having to move into a gutted out duplex and live there. But there are people who have a portfolio, like I've been working with a client who's trying to buy from somebody in Bremerton who the city has just set up every roadblock possible because he didn't get permits on one job, and now they are blocking pretty much all of his work and not letting him rent out the place. And it's actually been 2 years now. Unfortunately, he bought in high enough that he can't sell low enough for somebody to buy it right now. So I'm sure that guy does want stuff to burn down. Yeah.
And I'll add to that as well. I think it goes back to what he was saying around your why. Like when I started my room rental, similar to him, I had rats running all over the place, and I did want to burn it down. I definitely did not want to have the house. But I kept thinking about like how cool of that possibility that I have no payment. Like I knew if I get every single room rented out, I'll have 0 payment. So to be in that position, right, like the opportunity that gives me was kind of my driver. So kind of keep reminding yourself, whatever you get. Like I have clients that have like pinned on their fridge, like in 5 years we'll make $5,000 a month, and we'll be able to travel the world or something. It's like keep going back to that why. So when you do want to burn it down, you'll remind yourself.
I don't know.
You can, here, this is the thing, even when most people have like something you can learn from, even if there's something wrong, like you can find something to learn from. BRRRR is a forum that has so much stuff back to even 2018, a lot of questions that somebody can ask where the answer doesn't change over years is still there. So if there's a specific question, frequently I'll start there. And then once you have a team though, you'll probably start, not a team even, just like, 1 or 2 people who are already experienced. You'll find yourself starting to go to them because they have experience or they know a guy who's done what you're trying to do or has asked the same question. So BRRRR is good. There are plenty of books, but like most of us are investors here already. So we've already connected here, and I'd love to talk later, and I'm sure other people at the table, if you get their contacts, would be happy to guide you in whatever the next step you're looking for. Okay, I think that is going to be it for questions. What do we have next? Oh, follow us on YouTube. We're trying to do some more videos. I have a couple videos I should probably post on there, but things like, I know you're looking at ADU development, some people are, so we'll post some things about how we run our feasibility for our own projects and for clients. Things also like oil tanks, what is the worst that can happen, how to locate them, how much it costs to get them filled, stuff like that. Things that you'll probably run into when you're actually doing investing. Thank you all for coming and listening.
Thank you.